system implementation and maintenance. We have just about 3 topics and then we are done. Now, when we are looking at system implementation, the IT person will go deeper than what we are doing because there are models of implementing softwares, which they will learn in software engineering. But for a nursing informaticist, your focus will be system implementation in terms of you being part of the team when these systems are being implemented. And your work will involve involving nursing managers in the system selection and designing process. Designing a simple and efficient process, because the IT person, whoever is building the system, may not be IT inclined. They may be, but you have in-depth and deep insight into what they have to do. Recording a system compatibility guidelines, improving the system speed, selecting hardware which can encourage nurses to use them. You see, so the nursing informaticist, it's not a matter of just, we have implemented a system, use it. Is it user-friendly? Will nurses, will our people be interested in using it? And then upgrading the system through innovation in information technology. So we also look at successful automation. The system requires, it must be well-designed. Acceptance and integration of information system. These are major issues. The ability for us to integrate what you have developed. Nurses tend to shy away from IT, but if the system is such that either they cannot avoid it or it is attractive enough, it is human friendly, it is user friendly, they may adopt it, and then the various resources to support it. So when we look at system implementation, these are some of the key things that come into place when we are implementing a system or bringing about a software system or a health system, or even changing the organizational structure to suit a particular needs. Now we are going to look at the health policy and contemporary issues in nursing informatics in Ghana. To summarize this one, I will advise you to go to the Ministry of Health page. You will see a lot of documentation regarding many of our health policies, and there are detailed information there which you can get. You can get the Ministry of Health and the health policy and ICT and what they intend to do to deliver good health. You will see the policy objectives. There are about 5 objectives: to strengthen the healthcare delivery system, to be resilient, to encourage the adoption of healthy lifestyle, to improve the physical environment, to improve socio-economic status of the population, to ensure sustainable financing for health. These are some of the objectives of our health policy. Now the health policy and ICT, you will also come across the vision of the 5-year vision that the Ministry of Health has, and you come across various strategies they want to use to achieve these things. So visit the Ministry of Health website. If you need a link, just join our classroom. Now let's look at some of the issues, contemporary issues in nursing informatics. Number 1, there is a vagueness of the nursing role, because sometimes it is difficult to tell what they really do in terms of the care. They usually have a poor public image. It's an issue that is there, and how do they recoup, how do they come back good and strong. Inadequate resources to work with is always a challenge in every field. The changing worldview of nursing between the younger versus the older nurses. You know that the younger nurses are more tech inclined than the older nurses, so it is also a challenge. Introduction of auxiliary nursing at the back door. When we look at auxiliary nursing, we are looking at all the other assistants we have nursing assistants, we have physician assistants, we have all kinds of assistant courses that have been introduced. So it makes their work some way difficult. Lack of clear staff development strategies, postgraduate program. Are there any training when people finish their degree? Apart from that, on the job, are there any further training workshops? Perceptions that nurses with degree are not needed at the bedside versus high demand for degrees among younger nurses. A nurse is a nurse. The brain drain in Ghana is a big issue where nurses want to go outside because they feel it is better outside. We have a continuing threat of unemployment, which is an issue the government is facing in this country because there are many nurses that have been graduated and very few are working. And there are a lot of health training institutions, both private and public. There are a lot of public at the same time. There are a lot of the private industry is really booming these days. Poor quality training due to excessive intake is a problem. We admit a lot of students, there are no clear cutoff points and stuff like that. It's also an issue for health training institutions. Threat of admitting wrong people into the profession due to protocol admissions is an issue. Less indigenous research into nursing problems for evidence-based solution to nursing problems. Increased awareness of patient rights, threat of low salaries due to excessive supply of nurses, lack of professionalism among nurses. These represent key issues in the field. Now, let's look at the taxonomies or the various things and standards. This is going to be our final video. So I will end here. I want to spend some more time on the standards and taxonomies because it's our last video. See you in our next video. Utilization of the change process. So let's look at utilization of the change process. Now, change is a difficult thing, and in the nursing field, we realize that there's a lot of resistance to change. Kurt Lewin's model of change is what we are going to be looking at. He proposed something that is very helpful. He identified three forces: the driving force and restraining forces. Two, the driving force and the restraining forces respectively to change. Now the restraining forces, they represent the static forces that counteract the driving force and prevent the change from occurring. The driving force basically initiate change and assist organizations in reaching their desired goal. So in our quest to achieve change, there are two things: the driving force and then the restraining forces. And if we are able to be in a state of equilibrium, nothing happens, there is no change. But if there is a shift towards either the driving force or the restraining force, there can be change. So if there is a shift towards the restraining force, definitely there will be no change, or whatever change wants to be imposed will not happen. But if there is a shift towards the driving force, then there will be change. So this model is very helpful to help in the field, especially for leaders and management who want to introduce certain forms of change. Now the change process entails structural changes, changes in the ways of doing tasks, performance, expectations, perceptions of all involved parties. And what are some of the characteristics of change? Change is risky. Change must be planned or it can be emergent. You must be able to adapt properly to change. And there are many things you can do to adapt properly to change. You can retrain your workforce, reshape organizational culture, and then the leadership style and the management, you can work on that as well. You can redesign and adapt to different things. It is important to plan carefully change, and then change will occur properly. But if we don't adopt a good change process, as Lewin is telling us to do, we are likely to face such challenges as a lot of resistance to that change. And if there are no ways to monitor the outcome and the impact of change, then it also makes things a bit difficult. Now let's look at management and change process. Change in itself is something very difficult. If you're a new leader, you want to introduce change, you may have issues. If you are somebody who was just promoted to the position of leadership, you will have issues. And if you are an existing manager, an existing leader, and you want to introduce change, it is still difficult. Now, when you go to the Ministry of Health website, you are likely to see the theory of change, how they intend to implement changes in many aspects like quality of life. They have looked at the key determinants of health. They have looked at the national health policy guiding principles, and you can see the theory of change they intend to implement in the health sector as a whole. Thank you very much for your attention. Let's quickly take evolving role of nursing informatics. When we started the history and the introduction, we looked at so many things that the health informatics or the nursing informatics is involved in. But mainly, the role has evolved to include education and support for health institutions. It has also evolved into system implementation, workflow analysis, playing the role of champion and garnering buy-in, liaison between nursing and IT, and then ensuring that the nurse perspective is represented in organizational HIT decisions. Now, leadership positions are also key, like patient safety, change management, quality assurance. These are the few things that come into play in this field. Thank you. I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the button down there. Bye.